What's good, YouTube? This is Boxingwave. Please, if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel, all right? Smash the like button if you like the content. Also, share the video if you can. 2 more days now, 2 more days into the big fight, the fight of this generation, in my opinion. All right, and the format that I'm doing here is doing it a little different here. I'm doing the strengths and weaknesses of both fighters, and then I'm going to do an actual prediction video. And I'm sure I'm going to make more content leading up to Saturday. I'm not too sure about tomorrow. I'm going to have this video done now. I'm also going to have the actual prediction video done as well today. So be on the lookout for that video as well. And then I'll probably do a final thoughts video after the weigh-in at some point. And then Saturday, I'm pretty much clearing out the whole day for this fight. All right, so I don't know how early I'm going to get on Saturday to do the live commentary, but I'm going to get on earlier than usual. I'm going to be on YouTube. I'm going to try to be on YouTube a lot on Saturday. I plan to. Hopefully things with my schedule work out right. All right, so this video is here for Bud, strengths and weaknesses. If you haven't already checked out the Arrow Spence video that I did yesterday, I released last night. That's already up, strengths and weaknesses. And look, I've been trying to be as fair as possible. I think most of you guys know which fighter I like better. I'm a Bud fan. I'm more of a Bud fan than Spence. I like Spence too, just not when it comes to Bud Crawford. You know what I mean? So I am more of a Bud Crawford fan. But when it comes to picking fights and telling you how I think it's going to go, I try to be extremely neutral as possible. You know, this is why some people are leaving comments asking me if I've changed I see your notes and tweets and stuff that you guys, am I changing my views on the fight? No, I've been extremely fair when it comes to talking about the strengths and weaknesses in the actual ring. Okay, all of the other stuff as far as promoted, you know, the politics and stuff, that's different. But we're talking about the actual fight. I've been trying to be as fair as possible. You know what I mean? All right, so let's get into it. Bud Crawford. Let me start out by saying Bud, he stays ready all year round. He doesn't have to get ready. That means he's a gym rat. He stays in the gym. He doesn't go blow up in weight in between fights. And he's just a disciplined boxer. You know, he lives like a boxer. You know what I mean? He just stays fit. You know, he doesn't do too much. He's not outside. He's not running around doing too much. He's just a boxer inside and outside the ring. You know what I mean? I brought that up with Arrow. I don't think Arrow is as disciplined in between fights. I think he's gotten better now since the accident and stuff. But I think, you know, Arrow is a naturally bigger guy, gains a lot more weight. You know what I mean? I don't believe he's a gym rat or anything like that. But I did say that he is very disciplined inside the ring as far as sticking to the game plan, following instructions from his trainer, things like that. But Bud, outside of the ring, leading up to a fight, you know, whatever, he's always fit. He's always staying fit. You know, he's always staying ready. And I think that's a big deal when it comes to just the mind. You know what I mean? Just, he's a boxer. You know, he's a world-class boxer, and he lives his life like one. All right. Bud Crawford's strengths, again, he's all about different type of fighter. Spence is more of a volume puncher, bigger fighter, wearing you down, breaking you. That's all we hear from him. He's going to break Terence Crawford. He's going to break your will. The Arrow is not all about the flashiness. Even his own coach said he's basic. Terence Crawford is the other way. You know, he's all about timing, precision. He's all about accuracy. He's all about angles and counter punching and all of these other things. These are his strengths. He's extremely versatile. He can switch stances. He can fight well on both stances. A lot of people can switch, but they still haven't. I still think Crawford is a better southpaw because that's the stance he's standing in when he's scoring all these knockouts. You know what I'm saying? This is what he normally switches to at some point to the end of the fight. But he normally starts out as an orthodox fighter, and he can fight very well in that position as well. I just think he's slightly better as a southpaw, but I can see him doing everything that he does as a southpaw. He could do as a righty as well. You know what I mean? So he can do everything. Everything he's doing as a southpaw, he can do in the other positions. So he's a phenomenal switcher. One of the best switchers we've ever seen, and his main key focus is adjusting, adapting to his opponents. Whatever you're doing, he's going to adapt to it. I know a lot of people have been talking about like basketball players and comparing the two, like Errol Spence is like a David Robinson. He's all strictly fundamentals and stuff like that. Well, I can't compare a basketball player to Terence Crawford because he does everything. I have to think of like fantasy people like Shang Tsung from Mortal Kombat, a guy that can switch and adapt to whatever any fighter is doing. He could fight just like them. You know what I mean? Maybe not be better at all of their strengths, but he can do whatever you can do. All right? It's all about adjustments with him. Normally, up to this point, and this could be the difference in his career, just like Errol's strengths that he had in his video that I did yesterday, he's normally dictating the pace of the fight, but he's normally slowing things down. So when you see really aggressive fighters like Sean Porter, who's normally charging at you and high volume type of fighter, he was able to slow the pace of the fight down and make it his type of fight. Even though Sean had success in that fight and was winning some of the earlier rounds, you can just tell by the way the fight is going, the pace the fight is going, it's a slower pace. It's more of a pace where Bud is trying to dissect everything that you're doing. You know what I'm saying? So up to this point, he likes to slow things down. Another main strength of Terence Bud Crawford. And man, let me tell you something real quick. This is way easier reading off a list. I never get to read off a list. I do everything off top of the head. The most I might have the box rec up and the records up just in case I forget certain fighters or certain, factors, keys, records, ages. Sometimes I have that up. But man, reading off of a list is much easier than doing the way I'm always doing. I never do it like this before, and I love doing it right now, but I'm not going to make it a habit. I like to stay sharp by memorizing these key factors and doing these things off the top. All right, but one of the key things with Terence Bud Crawford is the lead hand action. A lot of lead hand movement. You see it with Usyk. You see it with some of the other superior fighters out there, like Bivol. A lot of with that lead hand, whether he's standing as a southpaw, whether he's standing as an orthodox fighter, that lead hand, he's doing a lot with it, all right? It's not just throwing a jab, like I was talking about Spencer and his jab. He has a great jab, but it's the same type of jab. It's a great jab, but it's the same type of jab. But it's not just throwing jab, but he's moving around with the lead hand. He's using it as a blinder to create more opportunities. He might throw it out there, throw a right hand to the body or a left hand to the body, depending on how he's standing. He's using it as a distraction. He's probing with it. He's throwing jabs, but he's changing. He's constantly changing the speed, changing it from, and then on the top of that, with the level changing, he's changing level. So he's going low. He's throwing it to the body, but sometimes he's throwing jab feints as well. He's just not doing regular feints. He's throwing jab feints as well. So with that lead hand, he's doing a lot. And it's making things a lot more confusing with these more aggressive fighters that are normally more, coming forward and throwing high volume, because now they got to think about what exactly Crawford is going to do. Is Crawford going to lead, or is Crawford waiting to counter? You got to think about it now. And it kind of slows. It goes back to my last point where it kind of slows down the pace for everybody he's faced up to this point. Now, again, we don't know if it's going to work as well against Errol Spence. You know what I mean? Because Errol Spence is a type of fighter that is going to try to walk through you, regardless of what you're doing. His volume is high, and he's up to this point, he is shown to be extremely durable. You know what I mean? And he's a career welterweight, and he's naturally bigger. So it may not be as much of a factor as it is, but in this fight here, or in this and everything that Crawford has been doing up to this point, he's been winning the fights based on these tools, that he has. All right. Also a great mover. All right. One of probably the best that Errol has faced up to this point. Great lateral mover. I mean, great at pivoting, stepping around you, and just changing directions. When there are periods where he wants to cause a little bit more confusion, he's going to be moving laterally. He's going to be changing directions, and he can punch while on the move. You know what I mean? So it's not like he has to stand and he has his feet cemented like a lot of other fighters that are out there, like Ugas in his very last fight, and Errol's very last fight. Ugas, great counterpuncher. Danny, great counterpuncher. But they're more stationary, where Crawford can do it all while moving quickly. You know what I mean? He's more of an athlete than those guys. Very technically sound, but he's also a great athlete at that point too. All right. Talking about precision earlier and perfectly placed punches. When he's doing counters, right, and he's just not countering you with one shot. He's not like a pot shotter. He's a guy that's throwing combinations behind the counter. He catches you with a big right, a power shot, but he's following it with combinations, but they're well placed combinations. So when you get hit with a right hand, right, you get hit with a right cross, and then you duck or move and try to slip the following shot, Crawford is usually throwing a punch exactly where he thinks your head is going to be, or he's countering to the body, and then the third punch might be where he thinks your head is going to be. So what I mean by that is just he's accurate with combinations. He's not just throwing a lot of punch to overwhelm you. He's kind of throwing punches to land clean, and he's mixing the non-power punches with the real powerful ones. You don't know. It's not even always about the one counter, like the one he did against Kell Brook. That counter, that right hand that he countered Brook with, that hurt him, it did enough damage to where it hurt Kell Brook bad, and Crawford went to finish him off. But when he catches you with that first counter, it's the ones that he's following up with that really gets you out of there. Look at the Jeff Horn fight. Look at the recent Sean Porter fight. Those are the counters that you really got to be prepared for. All right. Plus, on defensively, right? Which Crawford is a good defender. All right, he is a good defender, and he can change his stances. He can fight out of a active high guard, right? Block that way, parry that way, and then he can also, use that Philly shell, right? Keep that hand up, roll the punches off, counter with short shots. He can adjust and do all of those kind of things, so he can fight a slick kind of fight. I don't think he's the slickest fighter, but he can fight that kind of fight. All right, so with that being said, there's a lot of little things too that people don't really notice that he can do with those forearm blocks and counter, or the elbow blocks and counter. Those little things that he do in order to counter real quick, he's capable of doing. He's also a great guy. He's great at catching and shooting. So whatever shot he catches you or blocks with whatever hand he blocks with, he's great at countering with the same hand or the other hand. He has a great pull counter. He has what's the other thing? Let me look at my notes here. Catch and shoot, great pull counter. I've seen a sequence where, he parried a shot down, a body shot down, and counter with a left hook. You know what I'm saying? I think he was fighting as an orthodox, parrying a shot down and countering. Like, those are really far advanced things that I don't really see Errol Spence doing. That's not Errol Spence's thing. You know what I mean? There's a lot of very technically advanced things that Bud does in the ring. You know what I mean? These are hard things to do, very hard, different things to do. So I think Bud, when it comes to that and just being really creative offensively, gives him great opportunities, and he has the power to go into it. He's knocked out all of the welterweights that he's fought, right? None of them are as good as Spence. I know that. I know they're not as durable, not as big, whatever. But he has done what he's done, and he's stopped a lot of these guys with these tools, okay? Great angles. We already know he has a phenomenal angles. Again, talks more about his versatility, right? One of the better counter punches out there. Great angles. Got a phenomenal check left hook, which is one of his best weapons, all right? And one of the things that he uses when guys are coming towards him, all right? Because he's able to hit you with that check left hook, pivots, and now he's around you, and now he's charging up the combinations to follow up with the check left hook that he landed, because now you're trapped in the corner and now he's coming forward. You know what I'm saying? So those are the periods. And if you're not as slippery as other fighters are, which Errol really isn't, where you're trapped in the corner momentarily, that might be a dangerous place for you to be. You know what I mean? Certain fighters are good at being in those situations where they're trapped in the corner. They know how to get out of it, or they know how to work their way out of it, or set up counters themselves. You know what I'm saying? But we're not often used to seeing Errol in those positions. So that could be a huge strength for Crawford as well. Also want to talk about his body shots. You know what I mean? His body shots are huge, underrated. I think Spence is one of the best body punchers out there, and he's consistently going to the body. I mean, that's his game. You know what I mean? He's a dog. But Crawford is more precise with it. You know, doesn't throw as many. But when he does throw them, it's dangerous. They hurt, and they're landing. You know what I mean? They're landing. He's more about the accuracy. And again, it goes to the David Avanesyan fight in the final round where Crawford is ready to go. Once Crawford is ready to get you out of there, if whatever you're doing, whether you're Sean Porter, whether you're David Avanesyan, your Porter is based on those combinations and those counters and his timing when Porter is lunging at him and he's going for headshots. Whereas David Avanesyan, he's coming forward in the high guard. So what is Crawford doing? He's eating up his body. He's throwing punches around the guard. It really depends, but how he's trying to get you out of there is based on what you're doing, you know. And you can see in that round as a good example of how dangerous Crawford is to the body, opening you up at the body just to take your head off, which is what he did to Avanesyan. All right, and really overall, being able to switch and being able to adapt to his opponents is just the key strength of Terence Bud Crawford. Whatever you're doing, he has like a response to it. And I think that's what makes him special. All right. Now let's talk about the weaknesses. It's again, just like Spence yesterday, some of his weaknesses is based off some of his strengths. All right. I talked about defense earlier, and I think a lot of the weaknesses is going to be based on like defensive flaws. Now, it's the defense that is inconsistent at times because there are periods where Crawford is not taking things as serious. All right. And these are when they're openings for counters, especially in the earlier rounds. All right. When he's just filling you out, he's learning out how you hit. He leaves himself open a lot to get countered, to take big flush shots and exchanges. And I think that is a huge issue. The weakest part of Crawford is the earliest rounds where he's trying to figure out those first 4 rounds or so is his weakest. All right. He's a little too relaxed sometimes, a little too lackadaisical, you know, and sometimes he does fight into the exchanges, and sometimes he's coming out of the exchanges taking more damage. All right, so this is where a lot of Spence people are saying that Bud is going to get knocked out. He's going to get caught because we've seen him, especially in these earlier rounds. All right. Sometimes when he's trying to be evasive, right, and he's stepping around and circling around his opponent, he tends to lean back. He's all about leaning back a lot. He leans back a lot. Sometimes he forgets to hold the phone as he's moving. So when you got a guy in, and I'm gonna bring up more about the I might as well bring it up now because I made a point yesterday that the elite fighters that they both face are not southpaws, being that they're about to fight each other and they're both southpaws. But Crawford switches. And the thing with Crawford, if you want to watch some flaws of his in fighting a southpaw, a better southpaw in Felix Diaz, you would watch that fight. You know, I know Felix is a smaller guy and stuff like that, not as good as Spence, but Felix Diaz was able to expose some flaws there. I did go back to watch, and I felt like that fight was more useful than the other fights that both of them had facing off against southpaws. Phyllis Diaz showed that when Crawford is stepping around you and circling around you, that he doesn't really hold the phone like that. He's leaning back and he's moving towards the dominant hand of the southpaw, which is to his right. And sometimes when he's leading, he's catching these sweeping left hooks that are or sweeping he's either catching like these overhand lefts that were thrown by Felix Diaz, or when Crawford would move to his right, he'll catch the lead right hook, because Crawford is leaning, but he's still in range to get hit. So when he's moving, not only is he not holding his gloves up, a lot of guys, they circle around you, they either hold both gloves up or they'll hold the glove up in the direction that he's moving. Whereas Crawford, he just relies solely off leaning back and he's getting caught on the chin. And I brought up the right hook of Errol Spence, which is like a sweeping right hook, right? And it's very wide. If Crawford tends to move in towards his left, he might catch that hook on his way out. He's trying to get out of danger, but he might take it on the way out. And if he gets hit with a clean enough shot, he might get knocked down for it. You know what I mean? So he's got to be a little bit more careful when he's on the move. He relies too much on leaning back. Also, when it comes to leaning back, he gets caught with a lot of swivel jabs. All right, so these guys that's coming and throwing the right hand, they'll shoot the left, they'll leap in, shoot the left hand, following it. It's a good example of Keith Thurman when he got knocked down by Manny Pacquiao. He got caught because he was leaning back, going straight back. And even though Terence Crawford doesn't always go straight back, but he leans back a lot. And if you catch him with the swivel jab, he might get clocked in the head, get clocked in the chin with that, because he's always relying on leaning back a lot. All right. He fights out of a high guard, but not as much. He's very active when he does, but he relies on his athleticism when it comes to, getting out of the way and using his defense a lot. And sometimes he gets caught with some clean flush shots. Going back to him being too relaxed, all right, especially in the earlier rounds. He catch a lot of counters when he's probing or throwing jabs. And sometimes, even though he has long arms, sometimes he's doing it in close range. He's too relaxed, and these guys can land the overhand right or left. And, Crawford gets hit clean with it. He got hit clean early with David Avenesian and a few of those shots because he just be too relaxed. Same thing with Sean Porter. Same thing with every other fight. You know what I mean? He's just too relaxed sometimes. So even though he has a good jab, he does a lot with that lead hand. Sometimes he's just a little too relaxed early. While he's trying to figure you out, he takes unnecessary punches because his defense is better when he's trying to get you out of there. But when he's just going through the round, he gets a little too relaxed. He takes unnecessary punches again. A lot of these weaknesses are defensive weaknesses because he's phenomenal defensively. He is good when it's that round where he's stepping it up, or that certain half of the fight. After the 6th round, he steps it up. But in the earlier rounds, he's just too relaxed. You know what I mean? And that might be an issue fighting Errol Spence, because I think he's going to have to start out a little quicker. Another thing defensively, when he's having the exchanges, because we all know Crawford loves to bang. He likes to trade sometimes, and he gets a little too flush in these exchanges. Again, earlier rounds of the Sean Porter fight with David, not David Avenesian, Velasquez, where, he kind of got dropped in that 4th round or whatever round it was. I didn't go back and watch that fight. I've seen the fight so many times, I didn't really need to go back to that fight. But Velasquez, going into that mode where you're trying to walk guys down and you're trying to overpower these punchers, I think he gets too much hit, too flush in some of these exchanges with fighters that are good at brawling like that. And not saying that Crawford isn't, because he is a brawler, but he's also a very smart fighter. Why get hit with unnecessary shots that when you're at your A game, you won't get hit with. You know what I mean? And it's just too risky. You know what I mean? It's just too risky because you can get hurt or you're taking unnecessary damage. You know, and against Errol Spence, I just don't think he should take those kind of risks. So with the exchanges, again, this is an argument that I'll always see with boxing fans that don't like Crawford or don't think highly of him. People say all the time, well, you guys talk like he's Mayweather defensively or something. He gets hit a lot. Yes, he does get hit a lot because the difference between Floyd and Crawford is that Crawford is trying to stop you. He is a KO artist. As much as you guys like to say that he's small, he is a fighter. He likes to bang. Crawford is not Floyd. Floyd is not Crawford. Floyd is more defensive, you know what I mean, with the way that he does it. You know, not saying that Floyd doesn't like to fight too, because we've seen him walk guys down that are bigger than him. But he doesn't like to take too much damage. He doesn't like to get hit as much, whereas Crawford seems to not really care as much. All right. And this goes to his ego. You know, I think the weakness of Crawford is the ego, and I think a lot of these things that is based on that. I've seen Crawford leave Earth. And when I was watching the Sean Porter fight yesterday with Crawford, and I was looking at that 6 rounds. Please take a moment. It's on YouTube. Pull up the Porter fight. Look at the 6th round. Look at the rounds after, but look specifically at the 6th round in comparison to the previous rounds. There's a moment in every fight where Crawford decides to leave Earth and show that he is not comparable to anyone actively boxing, in my opinion. And that 6th round, he comes out, and out of nowhere, he's throwing these jabs, and he's parrying and countering, and he's slipping everything that Porter was throwing. Out of nowhere, he's like a defensive master. But before that, he's like toying around, and I'm trying to understand. I don't fully understand Crawford, because it's like there are points where he shows greatness, and then there are points where he's fighting and he's making a fight entertaining when he doesn't have to. You know what I mean? And I think that might be an ego thing. I think he likes to go in there thinking that I'm going to beat you at your own game. And there's a lot of risks that come involved with that. And it might be an issue on this fight. It may not be an issue. I don't know. We have to wait until Saturday to see. But the ego thing could be, you know, trying to prove to people that you can beat fighters any way you like. Sometimes it's more about just getting the win, you know, instead of just reaching different levels until you get to your best level, your highest stage. You know what I mean? It could be a weakness depending on who he's facing, and it could be a weakness this Saturday fighting Errol, who is fighting at a high pace throughout the entire fight. It could be an issue, or it may not be. We don't know. All right. But yeah, I think those are my weaknesses when it comes to Bud. But there are times where, again, he shows greatness. There are certain levels of Bud within each fight. And I think in those final rounds, you're going to see the very best of him. There's a time where he gets serious and he will hit you 10 times in a row like Sean Porter in that 6th round and miss and slip 10 shots in a row. And it's like, damn, bro, you just got hit with half the punches Porter was throwing in these exchanges. Then you go to a point where you don't get hit by anything. You know what I mean? It's weird, you know? It's fun to watch, but it's dangerous as well. All right? So this is my the end of my strength and weaknesses video for Terence Crawford. The very next video will be my actual prediction. Hopefully I can get that out by this afternoon. Please subscribe to the channel again. Smash the like button if you enjoy the content. And be here Saturday, man. Let's kick it with us. We always have a good time. We're going to have fun. We're going to talk a lot of shit. And we're going to have some drinks. have shots. We're going to do all that, right? So I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace.